Welcome to the abandoned Good Shepherd Mausoleum. This place has been featured on my channel twice before due to the amount of sadness and unfortunate circumstances that surround this location. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, down below in the description you'll find two videos where I cover the history and give updates on this location over the years. But we're back here today for a revisit to share a little bit of information and to see how it looks today in October of 2020. So I invite you to come along with me as we take a walk around the abandoned Good Shepherd Mausoleum. Thanks for joining me today. So we're going to take a walk around this location and show you what kind of condition it's in months and even years later after my first video here, after I learned about the state of this place. Now keep in mind, it's not posted, it's not locked up, and even though according to news articles they have declared it abandoned, you don't want to come here and do anything lawful. You don't want to vandalize it, you don't want to graffiti it. You're still going to be held liable for your actions because it is still a piece of property. It is still checked on. So if you do come here, the building and the grounds, please show it the utmost respect like I do. I'm only here to document it, not to disturb anything, take anything, or leave anything behind. So with that being said, let's check out the building first, then we'll walk around the property, and towards the end of the video, I'm going to share what little bit of news there is regarding this location here of the Good Shepherd Mausoleum. Now this place is pretty overgrown. There is garbage laying around in certain areas, looks like blown off fireworks. The entranceway is barely clearable. There's enough room for a car, but if people weren't coming here to volunteer to maintain the property, most likely would have a hard time accessing it by vehicle. Aside from that though, it kind of is beautiful, but it's also sad at the same time, especially when you know what is going on with the families who have loved ones left behind. But all in all, the property, states of it are completely overgrown. Areas you're going to see later on where the grass is cut, things have been trimmed or maintained, and that's not by groundskeeper. That is strictly by, I shouldn't say strictly by, but most presumably by the family members or possibly volunteers who come here to cut areas of grass, who trim back the brush, pick up any fallen debris. But as I'm showing in the footage now, there's actually some above ground crypts that are completely overgrown by nature. You can almost barely make out what it is unless you go up close to it, but some of them are buried, some of them are overgrown. There's a lot of them that you can't even see now because nature has simply swallowed it up for the most part. And after we check out the main building here, the mausoleum part, we'll take a walk down by the maintenance shed and office and show those items that are back in the woods, those crypts and vaults. But this camera is not going to do so well inside, so I'm going to supplement some footage I took with my other camera too as we're in here checking it out. So first thing you can see, and here is my echo, but you can see the stained glass. It's perfectly intact, and that's great to see. There's no reason for it to be destroyed, vandalized, tagged up. And you can see there are still people left here, have not been removed. I'm going to share some information though from the past video about people's remains being removed. But one of the main concerns though is the rotting, decaying roof, which is allowing liquids and other things to come inside. You can see the peeling paint, bubbling paint. You can see stains. Some of them may be rust, some of them may be other fluids, which they have addressed in news articles. But it's not very big, but just big enough to have a place to come to honor and have a supposed final resting place for loved ones, but that is unfortunately not the case. They do have a crown lift in here that's to lift and remove the vaults and or caskets, and they have a little podium here when they did have little services, I believe, for, you know, kind of like a send-off for their final resting place, how they do at a church. They would come here and do a little service for the loved ones. But this place is moldy, it is rotting, it is decayed, it doesn't smell the nicest, but it is in a limbo state right now. And I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but just wanted to give you a look inside as to what remains, what it looks like, how it feels. It's just sad. It's all it is. Believe it or not, nature is actually slowly reclaiming this building. There's actually vines growing in here, and they're doing quite well. They're getting sunlight, they're getting moisture, and they are growing inside the building as we speak. The brown stuff that you see is actually some dead, what I like to call nature's carpet, just moss. And that's what's all over the floor here. It's mold and moss. But now that we got an inside look, I think we're gonna go outside and see what the outside looks like. All right, we're back outside, and you were just inside of an open vault here. One of many where bodies have been removed. So these open crypts here, open vaults, I sometimes mix up the terminology, are open for a reason, because there is a funeral director who I mentioned in the last video. His name is Chris, and he's working with families through court proceedings to have their loved ones removed and cremated. And he's not receiving any type of profit from it. He's doing it only for what the charges are mandated to extract and cremate their loved ones. So over the past few years, he's removed dozens of loved ones' remains and had them cremated so they could have a permanent final resting place, whether it's in the ground, in an urn, or at home. But they're no longer here. Now, there are still bodies here, as mentioned. Some of them are still in the process of being removed, I believe. Others may not have any longer any survivors, any family members that could help, you know, move them from another location, just because they're not even aware of it because there's no one around. So some of them may remain here indefinitely until something's done. But we're going to go around to the other side now, and we'll show you what that looks like. But this is, you know, it's just not good shape. You can see the roof, the rebar is showing through, and everything has fallen through onto the ground. As we come around to the other side, this is even in worse condition. The overhanging roof is nearly almost gone. And this is why it is advisable to be safe when you come here. Use common sense. If something looks like it's going to fall or looks like it's going to hurt you, keep your distance. But as we can see, there are more open spots here. And this one actually looks like it's either fallen on its own or something, but that is what is sealed up. There's just brick, and behind the brick is where the, I guess it would be the vault with the casket inside of it. A lot of these are nameless. Some of them have names. B. Ferrando, L. Ferrando. Some of them are kind of engraved in here. But there are more and more that have been removed here. And if you guys ever want to see what it looks like inside of a mausoleum crypt, this is it. And again, that was one complete piece of concrete at one point as the roof. I remember being here, I think in my first video, where it was still hanging down. And I guess volunteers came with sledgehammers to break it apart. And that's what you see laying on the ground is brick and concrete and rubble. And as we come up here, this is the back of the building. I believe power has been cut. There's no electricity to it. And the roof, as you can tell, actually has trees and plants and weeds growing up on top of it. Now, they did give an estimate years ago about what it would cost to replace this roof. I don't know the numbers offhand. That was covered in a different video. But since no work was done since that time, those costs and estimates have even increased since then. So whatever was quoted, which was a large amount of money, is probably going to be close to double that now. But we're going to check out some of the grounds now, show you some of the tombstones and plots. Then we're gonna head down to the office and maintenance shed down there. Not a whole lot to see, but since we're here, we'll give you a quick look at it. As mentioned, you will find grass that is for the most part maintained. There are some burials here, and over here you'll see a section of trimmed grass and then really high untouched grass over there. So as far as I know, there still are tombstones, burials in this yard here, but they're not being maintained just because there's no one here to maintain them. I believe, like I said, that these are being trimmed and maintained and kept up by the loved ones of the family members or by volunteers, or a combination of both. But it is situated on a good piece of property. I believe it's 6 acres. It's, you know, it is a beautiful piece of property. You know, you got large trees here. There's ample shade. You know, it's a nice setting. It's just the circumstances surrounding it are quite unfortunate. As we come around this bush here, we'll see someone's burial spot, and someone's been coming here and leaving items and gifts. There's numerous sensor lights and some decorations, pinwheels. This says, "Beloved Mother Dorothy Kane Hughes, 1929 to 2001. So it's nice to see that they are still coming here, paying their respects. Behind it here, I'm not sure if this blew over. This might be someone that, I don't want to say they just dropped this stuff off here and left it, but maybe from a storm it kind of blew over here. It is, you know, quite a mess. And there's the vines again growing up the building. Stepansky. And there's a lot of graves here with the flags. Veterans. There's Floyd J. Anderson, U.S. Navy, World War II. And as we look in the distance, there's quite a few more. Here's Shirley Stucker, known as Aunt Cheryl, 1935-1998. And without a doubt, a cat lover. And looks like next to her husband, maybe, Charles Stucker. They died 8 years apart. But the flags are blowing in the wind. It does make for a nice setting. You can tell this grass is trimmed here. It has been maintained throughout the year, or years, but this year in particular, they probably come maybe once a month. This one even has a little pumpkin jack-o'-lantern here. So over here is Charles Griffin, U.S. Army, World War II in Korea. Got a little basset hound statue here. And looks like his wife, Beverly Griffin, 1933 to 2015. She may be buried here in a urn, maybe just her ashes. You can see steps going off to nowhere. It's completely overgrown. It would take a lot of work to get that back to a manageable height to maintain it. Back here though, we're not going to go inside, even though it is busted open. Each year it's getting worse. The roof is wide open now. The windows are wide open. That is the office. And behind it is a little shed. But what we're going to show is behind it, where they do have some of the concrete, I guess you would say vaults. One thing I am guilty of is I do have a bad memory when it comes to exact terminology. I do remember the terms, but I often forget which one is related to which. So I know you're probably going to correct me in the comment section. That's fair. But I do know crypts and vaults are the proper terms. I just get mixed up with which one is which. But we're not here to be perfectionists. We're just enjoying our walk around here and documenting the property. Now where I'm at here, there's actually a separate or an additional entrance that loops around to where I'm parked. It comes in off the road and goes around the bend straight ahead to the mausoleum. But on the left hand side, as we see, is the maintenance and office building. So we're gonna take a walk through the woods here. Yeah, that window is still intact, surprisingly. Just watch your eyes, a lot of low branches. Yeah, we've showed this before. It is dark, musty, moldy. Here's the kind of equipment used to lower the caskets into the ground. I'm sure someone knows the name of that, but that is placed in the ground. Casket lays on top of it with straps, and the straps kind of unwind to lower the casket into the ground. I do know that much. This place is really almost unsalvageable at this point. The amount of mold and destruction and decay. Now this stuff is intentional. As I mentioned at the start of the building, I ask people not to come here to do bad things, you know, vandalize, graffiti. But there is a silver lining. At least any destruction, vandalism that we are seeing is at this building here, which doesn't hold anything of importance. The mausoleum itself is, for the most part, untouched. It's natural decay. So at least in that aspect, they are only focusing on things that aren't really of importance to family members or hold any significant value. Now back here is where we saw some of these concrete things. Now I do know there's some plastic ones over there, plastic liners that go inside the either crypt or vault, and a casket goes inside of there. I did learn that. But this one over here always gave a creepy vibe to it because it looks identical to a casket. It's very resemblance of that. And it's almost like the lid is kind of half open, which it is. It's off center. But anyone stumbling upon it, including me for my very first time finding this, I thought it was a casket out here. Here's the other side of it. It does look creepy. Not going to deny that. It's actually partially filled with water from being open. And of course it's covered mildly in some nature's carpet. So the plastic liners I mentioned are almost like little bathtubs now. They're just sitting here collecting water. It's like a mosquito breeding ground. But the rest of the grounds are overgrown, being taken over by nature. Not really anything else worth investigating back here that I'm aware of. Looks like somebody made a pathway here. That is the office door, the front door. You could see the railing here. It's completely overtaken by a large bush. But people have been using some items to prop themselves up to get inside. You can instantly smell the mold coming out. There's just a look inside, just boxes, chairs, some old equipment. Nothing really of value. No reason to go inside, especially with how bad I can smell the mold from outside. I would have to bring my respirator, but there's nothing even worth going inside for. And the front of this maintenance shed is just full of junk. One thing I did spot, I remember, there's a lot of these boxes of children's allergy relief, like cases of it. Vials of stuff. I don't even know what those are. But there's more of those boxes that we've seen. Just a lot of junk, but if you guys happen to know what the children's allergy medicine would be used for, as far as like an illegal substance or something, feel free to share. This is actually riddled with bullet holes and some old beehives, bee nests. So now that we know what all this looks like and what's here, let's head back over to the mausoleum with the snap of a finger. And just like that, we're back here at the mausoleum. Snapped a few photos, which I'm going to share at the end of this as a little tiny photo montage with some music. But you guys are probably wondering, what's the latest update and information on this place? Well, let me prop you guys up somewhere and we'll talk for a few minutes to share what there is known about it and to give my final thoughts on it. So I'm actually sitting here on the steps that go to nowhere, where it's completely overgrown behind me. So the information that's available right now is very minimal. There's not really anything new or changes, except that everything is still pretty much the same. And what I mean by that is that it's still considered technically abandoned. And that's a phrase that was used by news sources. That's not my own saying. My first video here, I titled this the Almost Abandoned Mausoleum. At that point, it was not technically abandoned. My second visit, and including today, it's an abandoned state, which means the owners who purchased this property at the tax sale have basically forfeited their title. Said, we don't want anything to do with this. We're done with it. We're washing our hands of it, which obviously is not the right thing to do or legal to do. They are still held accountable. But even through court proceedings, nothing has really been done. The township here doesn't want to take over ownership just because they don't have the funds to do so. There's, aside from the building alone, there's thousands upon thousands of dollars for the demo of the office if they decide to do that, the maintenance and upkeep of the property here with the overgrowth. But the building alone is going to be closer to probably $100,000, and that's just to make it, safe for code inspection. So what's the future going to be here? I honestly don't know. I have been saying all along that it'd be nice if they could come to like a joint agreement where maybe the owners in the township go half and half on it, or if there's a group of volunteers that could maybe put together a fundraiser or somehow take ownership of it as a group and do the work, if they're skilled individuals or something like that. That's the best outcome. Worst outcome is that they're going to end up removing everyone from here, destroying the building, and sending bills to the families to relocate or to do whatever with their loved ones' remains. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of people here who have loved ones who are, rested here, laying here in their final resting place, and there's no one around to make any decisions for them on their behalf, just because they've been here for a long time. And with veterans and stuff like that, people are up there in age. Now the people that are buried here, as far as I know, they're okay. They don't have to be exhumed, relocated, because it's not being affected. They're in the ground, and unless this property was to change into something else, obviously they'd have to be removed and relocated. But it's primarily the ones that are left in the building. And from what they said last time, there's around 50 to 60 bodies left. I'd assume that's less now because we've been here at a later date. So I'd say under 50 people left. That may or may not be including the ones buried here. Those details weren't shared, but just wanted to give you guys a updated look here. October 2020, coming up on the Halloween season here, and being in the middle of my Vlog-a-ween series, I want to come back here for a third update and just to share that nothing has really changed. It's still abandoned. Everything else that we shared about it can be found in the previous videos. Like I said, if you haven't watched those videos, They're going to cover the dates as to who used to maintain this property, the people that bought it, when they bought it, how much they bought it for. All those details can be found in the previous videos. And you'll be able to see too how this property has kind of progressed in a negative way, you know, kind of decayed more, got more vandalized with the office building there from my first visit. You can see it kind of transform over time. But anyways, guys, make sure to stick around for the little photo montage. Otherwise, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to share, the comment section is for you guys. I love hearing your feedback, and I'm expecting to be reading some comments about the proper use of vault and crypt, so have at it. Otherwise, guys, I had a great time documenting this place for you. Once again, if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more abandoned remains videos and locations, you'll find a playlist down below in the description. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.